So you've done it. You've got a client that actually wants to pay you. They reach out to you, they've got their project, they say, let me know what this will cost, or more often, what is your rate? Hey there, I'm Daniel Norton, photographer here in New York City. In this video, we're going to talk about bidding for jobs. We'll talk about the questions you need to ask clients, how to put together an estimate, where to get the pricing from, and all the little bits and bobs that you need to make sure that your estimate is going to be competitive, but also not put you in the red. Before we jump into how to create an estimate, I want to thank my sponsor for this video, Found. Found is a banking app designed for solopreneurs and small business owners. Found offers everything solopreneurs need to handle their business finances conveniently in one place, and I found them to be great for the needs of my photography business. As you might expect from an app that's designed for the self-employed, Found makes it simple and easy to create and send invoices for these jobs that you're going to be bidding on. It's an incredibly clean and easy interface, and you can get paid via debit or credit card, direct deposit, Cash App, and more. Beyond invoicing, you can also use Found to track expenses in various categories, including tax write-offs, and all this without leaving your bank account. Found's Pocket feature lets you create various sub-accounts for different parts of your budget, which is great for organizing your business finances. They automatically set aside money for your taxes in the tax pocket, but as photographers, we might find it useful to, let's say, have a pocket for second shooters or to save up for a camera or other studio equipment. As creators, we want to focus on creating. Having a single app that handles all your business banking helps us stay focused on the craft. Check the description below. You'll find a link that will allow you to sign up for free. I highly recommend checking it out. It just takes a few minutes to sign up. And now that you know how to invoice for your work, let's talk about landing those clients. So one mistake that so many people make is getting very excited about being offered a job and then very quickly saying, I'll send you an estimate, and they're off the phone or off the email with the client. Step one to really doing a good estimate or bid is having the information you need. So what we need to do is think about asking questions. You might think, oh, I don't want to bother them, but you really want as much information as possible. So what we're going to do here is run through some of the things we want to ask clients when they reach out to us. They're going to say, what is your rate? And you're going to just reply back with a bunch of questions and then finish the conversation by saying, I'll put together an estimate and send it your way. That's really how you want this conversation to flow. Don't get too excited and just throw out some kind of a rate. So the first and most obvious part of the question is, what is the scope of the project? That is to say, what's involved? Is it 40 images for a catalog shot on location in a desert? Is it 10 product shots in the studio? Is it a portrait of a chef at their restaurant? Find out what the scope of the project is. What exactly is it that you're photographing? Ideally, ask for reference photos or some kind of a layout that they've already created. Know the number of shots you need to do, how many days you think it'll take, and how that works, right? Because you might say, well, I can go in and make a quick portrait of a chef in an hour, if need be. But if you have to photograph 12 chefs in 12 different restaurants in 12 different cities, that's much different than quoting a price for 12 portraits, right? So we want to get the idea of the scope of the project. Next, we want to know what it's going to be used for. This is something that a lot of clients don't understand, and it requires us to educate them a little bit. That is to say that if somebody comes to you and they're a small company producing a fashion catalog that they're going to put on their website, that's much different than a company looking to run ads in a magazine or use the stills for a TV advertisement. This is all different because if they're spending that kind of money and potentially the ad is making them that kind of money, then you need to charge more for it. You might say, well, it's the same picture, but that's just not how it works. The idea is that you're being paid for the value of the image, not the image itself and how long it took you to make it. Don't think of it as X number of hours for X number of dollars. Think of it as a finished product that has a value. The final part of this is asking questions to figure out what parts of the production you will be responsible for. Will you be responsible for getting the talent? Will you be responsible for getting locations? Are you going to have to deal with insurances and permits and things like that? Is that what do they want you to fully produce this shoot? Or are you going to their location already set up with everything with your couple of bags of equipment and your crew, and they've already got everything else? Find that out. That's really important. I've done jobs all kinds of different ways, from I do everything to I just show up and shoot, even as far as they already had the gear there because some companies work that way. Find that out. Again, that's really important. Are you going to have to rent equipment? Are you going to have to travel? Are you going to have to hire talent? That needs to be part of your estimate so that when you come back, you give them a big picture of everything. All right, so you've asked all the important questions. Now let's break down what we want to put into an estimate. So the first thing you're going to want to do is think about the final image and what it actually takes. If they have a layout, look at it specifically. If not, draw out what you think it'll be. Think about location, crew, how we're going to get there. Also the gear, how are we going to light it? What kind of extra gear are you going to bring just in case? Break down the shot piece by piece, little by little into the smallest possible pieces. Now, the more you do this, the easier it will be for you to kind of group things together. But if you're new to making estimates, really dig into this. Think about every little thing that you need on that set. Are you going to need a tripod? Are you going to need lights? Are they going to need batteries? Batteries for your remotes? Are you going to need to, bring a generator? All these things will matter. Is there going to be somebody operating the computer? Do we need hard drives to hand off the images to the clients? All these things matter. Is the shoot long enough that you're going to need food? Breakfast and lunch? How do we schedule that into the day? How do we get caterers to bring it and make sure that everybody's satisfied? If it's a shorter shoot or something smaller, what type of refreshments do we want to have there? Nothing? Not a good idea. Maybe just bottles of water, maybe some snacks. Put this into your estimate. Make sure that everything's factored in. You want to seem generous on the day of the shoot when the client says, hey, I'd love a coffee, and you run out there and get it for them. But if you estimated correctly, they've already paid for it. Let's just take another quick second to talk about locations. So when we look at locations, there's a few things to keep in mind. It might seem obvious if somebody wants a shot in the park that, okay, you can shoot in the park, but check your regulations. Do you need permits? What do these permits cost? In some places, you might require to have police or some other security if you're in a public place. You might have to pay a cleanup fee after you're there. Get all these things in mind that this might be part of what you're going to need to do. You might have a friend that has a house that you want to shoot in the backyard of. Don't just shoot there for free to try to keep your estimate low. Pay them something reasonable. Make sure that things are done legit, because if you just pull locations out for free this time, what happens next time when they want a different backyard and you don't have another friend with a house? Now all of a sudden your estimate went up by a few $1,000s and they're wondering why. Make sure we're factoring everything in. Make sure that even though you have friends that might help you, you're paying for photo assistants. Again, crew, location, gear. Make sure you have everything you think you need and then some. Let's take a second to talk about pricing. So as usual in these videos, if you've watched this channel a lot, I'm not going to dig into very super specific pricing because depending on the job you're doing and where you are in the world or in the country, that prices are going to be different. But what we want to do is figure out the costs of things when they call. So if we take our idea and we know what kind of gear we use, we're going to go to a rental house website and price out what it will cost. We're going to look up here in New York, you have the mayor's office that talks about permits. You're going to look to see how much a permit costs and what the process is. You're going to reach out to a talent or modeling agency, possibly multiple, to get an idea of what the pricing would be for a model. And again, for this, you're going to need to know the scope of the project. This is also true for fashion stylists, product stylists, and photo assistants. Photo assistants aren't generally working with agencies, so you'll probably have a list of people that have contacted you in the past, hopefully. If not, you can look to things like ASMP or APA for resources there. If you need to move the crew from place to place, look into what it's going to cost for a driver and transportation. If you need to provide catering, get estimates on that. At this point, you're going to be information gathering. Now, it is kind of a pain, to be honest with you, because you will probably, as a professional photographer, do this type of thing 10 times for every one job you'll land once you start rolling. Lots of people, as you get busier, will reach out to you for pricing. And you'll get better at it as it goes, and also you'll start to have a rough idea so you can give a range. So if you always deal with a certain modeling agency and you always do this kind of project, then you'll know it's roughly this amount and you can put that in. And again, you can put a range if you have to, or just put it a little bit higher than you think you might need to. It's the same thing with catering. When I used to do a lot of catalog shoots here in New York City, I had 2 caterers I used all the time. I knew what the catering cost. It didn't take me any time to do that. Set building, you're going to need to get estimates if you need to have set built. Or if you're going to build it yourself, you're going to need materials. So all these things you're going to spend time, a few hours, half a day, depending on what you're doing, researching the pricing. If you have to fly somewhere, you're going to get estimates on plane tickets, right? All this is going to be important because when you produce your estimate, the closer you are to what seems like a real number, the more legit you're going to seem. Big companies, especially, even though they'll act like they're naive, they know that a photo shoot might cost tens of thousands of dollars. And if you show up with just your day rate of $2,000 for this project that you want to charge, they're just going to go, the whole job for $2,000? And they're going to realize you don't know what you're talking about. So make sure you have all this in, make sure you break it down. I generally don't put exact numbers on each thing. I'll do categories. So I'll say something like catering and then describe what it is, breakfast, lunch, dinner, snacks, blah, 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 and a price. I'll put transportation and put a price. I'll put rental equipment and put a price. I'll put talent and put a price. Don't break down this model costs this much, this one costs that much. You don't need to get into that much detail here. What you're doing is you're giving a rough estimate. If you get past this point and they accept your estimate, then you can say, all right, I'm going to tighten this up and get back to you. That's kind of phase 2 before they sign it. So you're getting ready to submit your estimate. You have all the pricing that you need. You've made sure you're covering all your nuts and bolts and bits and bobs that you need for the shoot. What else are we missing here? Payment, okay? This becomes super important. You should be listing on your estimate what the client is getting as far as rights and final product. You should also need to list how you're going to be paid. I highly recommend that any commercial job that you do, you are paid up front. Not 100% because that's not industry standard, but 50% is. So when you make your estimate, you say 50% due upon acceptance of estimate, balance due, net 30 is usually a pretty good, but again, talk to your client about this. Try net 15. If they don't want to do that, net 30, some might even be 90. Make sure that if they're 90, that 50% is covering all your expenses. You do not want to go into debt for your client. So the next thing we want to do is make sure we address that it is an estimate and that they understand that the price might go up. Some kind of a statement saying, any additional expenses up to 5% or 10% of the total estimate does not need to be approved by client in writing. Anything more does. And make sure that we are on the shoot, you have some kind of a form that you can have them approve any additional expenses if it goes beyond that. That being said, I still make sure I mention anything that's going to be extra, even if it's within that 5% cushion, just so they're not surprised. In the end, the estimate is basically sealing the deal. Bidding for the job, putting the estimate out, and getting them to sign that is basically the confirmation. The shoot is something else we'll talk about another time, but if you've got that far and they accept it, that's an amazing feeling. Now you just gotta deliver great product. So let me know if you have any other questions about estimates and things like that in the comments below, or if you have some experience. If you've been around, let's share our experience with people who are just learning the craft. Make sure we're all kind of on the same page so that clients know what to expect when they're dealing with a professional photographer. Check the description. You're going to find a link to my Discord server. Lots of great people over there. Also, like and subscribe to the channel if you are so inclined. I'll talk to you soon.